an unconstitutional hoax.
Aloha, and welcome to Trust and Verify, the only show that consistently tells you don't believe a word we fucking say. Verify it for yourself. Tonight we got a great show planned for you, I hope. But yes, to answer your questions out there in the chat, we are on DLive. We are on dlive.tv/TAB show. So you can find us right now over there. It's a great new platform that we've been testing out. Look. We were talking, I got to open up the kimono before I even introduce my friend, my partner, my co-host, Boogie Bumper. Before I even get to that, I got to tell you guys, we were talking before the show, and we're like, man, do you understand how bad the numbers look on the other platforms when you realize that the DLive is like 100% conversion rate? Like 100% of the subscribers are watching 100% of the time. Whereas if you look at what goes on everywhere else, you're like, wait, how do I have 14,000 followers and I don't even get that total on the replay? It makes no sense. So we were talking about that. The people love DLive is what my point is. You guys are having great fun, posting gifts, sending ice cream and lemons and oranges, whatever the hell other vegetables you can send. But I digress. Let me introduce the man of the hour, Boogie. Boogie, how's it going?
Very good, James. Very good. It's good to be with you once again, as always. And I just want to tip my hat to the fam as well for joining on DLive, because to be honest, I was very skeptical. I went through on my show all the reasons why we're doing this, and I had to, I'll open up the kimono, my half of the kimono too. I had to drag James kicking and screaming to this. I'm like, no, you're coming with me. You're coming with me, you son of a bitch. It was a Jerry Maguire moment. Who's coming with me? Come on. Come on now.
I'll get the fish. I got the fish.
Because we tried this when we first started doing Trust and Verify. We tried to go solely on a streaming platform at the time, which was stream.me, which is now defunct, believe it or not. Because even back then, we knew that it was important to, try and help people get out of the habit of just going on YouTube or just going on Periscope, because even though we love these platforms, I started on Periscope. I love Periscope. I love the way it works. I love its usability. I love the way it interacts with Twitter. But the problem is we are creating these pens for ourselves. And if we don't understand how to, get off the plantation kind of thing, if we don't understand how to get out of the pen, James, then it's very, very easy for, channels that we love to be just shut down and erased. And you'll never know what happened. It shouldn't be that way, right? Ideally, we shouldn't have to deal with that stuff. But you've got the terms of service change coming to YouTube on the 10th. Yeah, it's a big, who knows what's going to happen, right? They are, for those who aren't aware, they're changing the terms of service on YouTube. They can delete any channel which they deem to be not commercially viable. Now, in the past, if there was some kind of regulation, like say, you can't say this, you can't say X about X people, James, or you can't show violence, people can deal with that. But when it's something as subjective as not commercially viable, that's potentially anybody on the chopping block, because that is entirely an opinion, right? Right. Because I could be not commercially viable today, but if I keep streaming, one day I might be. I'm not saying me personally, but you know what I mean? That kind of story happens all the time. If you're a young band and you're starting out in the music scene, you go into a record label with your demo. For example, do you know how Garbage got their name? The band Garbage?
No.
That was the comments that they got back from the first record label that they dropped a demo into. They said, this is garbage. So they named their band Garbage. So you see what I mean? Now, it's pretty hard to tell me that Garbage hasn't made money, right? They're commercially viable.
But real quick, is that the same story for the band Milk?
I'm not sure about milk. I think they were farming enthusiasts, to be fair. And cream and bread, believe it or not.
There you go.
But yeah, so it's very subjective. We don't know what's going to happen. And what usually happens with these platforms is one of them changes and the rest of them follow suit. So, one rule change will turn into a rule change across the board for all of these platforms, whether we like it or not. So, and I've got to say, thank you to the audience for actually, having the balls to say, all right, I'm going to try a new platform. I'm going to see what it's like. I'm going to see how it works. I'm going to see how it works out. And to be fair, people are loving it. People are enjoying it. So it's really encouraging. It's good to see. So that just shows we will be somewhere. If we get kicked off other platforms for whatever reason, we will be around somewhere. You'll always be able to find us. But
I want to say real quick before you get to the show, I really do want to make this point is that's one of the things that I think we've been very consistent on with both Boogie, myself, our joint shows, even helping all the other people we each help is that we've never been a single platform entity. We have always expanded and tried to make sure that we're spreading ourselves as wide as possible. Don't get that sexual. Just to make sure that we could always get the shows out because we could see, we had the vision to see that it doesn't matter what the platform is. We're not going to put all the eggs in one basket. But having said that, we all think that DLive is really proving to be a pretty robust platform for people exactly like us. They make the rules pretty crystal clear. They actually have a feature that says, look, if you're doing political commentary, click this button just so that it's not safe for work so people don't get caught up. Like they're protecting people that you might be in a liberal environment. So they just say, just click this button so that people know right up front, not safe for work so that you can make a decision and don't accidentally, click something that's, screaming out there, go Donald Trump and you get fired for it. So it's doing a good job.
Yeah. And for more reports, if you need to reach out to the team, to fix some kind of issue, they get back to you very quickly. James's stream the other night, a bigger platformer on DLive came in and started hosting it for his audience. And he had 1,000 followers, 2,000 followers or something like that. So, these kinds of things are great. So thank you everyone once again. And we're going to push on with DLive. Hopefully, from all reports, they treat their streamers very fairly. So that's all we want really is that's all we've been fucking asking for is a fair shot. You know what I mean?
That's right.
Just give us a chance. Just let us do our thing and everything will be sweet. So let's get to the show, James. I hope you've had a lovely week. Thank you so much for joining us on all the platforms. I'm sure everybody's seen this, but I need to play it because on this show, we like to take the corporate media and analyze them, James. We like to go deep into the hearts and minds of the good men and women, the patriots, you might say, James, working in the corporate press, trying to protect you, the knuckle-dragging, uneducated, fat, lazy slob, otherwise known as the American citizen, from the evil and dictatorial and tyrannical Donald Trump, James. So let's play a little bit of Nancy, and then we're going to go to the man who the hammering segment was named after, Lawrence O'Donnell, for his little take on what Nana Nance had to say here in this press conference. Let's have a look.
United States and the facts that lead to the president's violation of his oath of office. And as a Catholic, I resent your using the word hate in a sentence that addresses me. I don't hate anyone. I was raised.
Who would have thought that identity politics would come so far now that the leader of the Democrats in the House would now be using identity politics to defend her Catholicism? Okay? As a Catholic, I must say that I'm very offended. We're so used to, as a woman, as a member of a minority ethnic group, as a trans person, as a gay person, as a migrant, as a refugee, as a member of the oppressed class. No, as a white Catholic woman, I'm offended. It's like, whoa, I don't think that's going to work for you. I don't think that works for the Catholics. But anyway, let's carry on.
In a way that is a heart full of love and always
full of love.
Prayed for the president.
She's filled with the milk of human kindness, James.
Yes.
She's got a heart full of love.
And I still pray for the president. I pray for the president all the time. So don't mess with
So
me when it comes to words like that.
I'm such a good goddamn Catholic. I pray for the president every day. So don't mess with me, you son of a bitch. What?
And a very excellent comment in the chat from Elaine. Elaine says, James Rosen, the guy they spied on.
Right? It gets better. It gets better. Off she goes. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting for me. So, here's the thing, right? I have been one who has commended Donald Trump and other politicians for going hard at the press when they feel the need to, right? Like, if you've got a problem with the press, you say so. You get in their face and you tell them what's what. If you think they're wrong, none of this, like, sort of, tiptoeing on eggshells shit. Just give it to them both barrels. So I can't, in good conscience, criticize Nancy Pelosi for what she did there. Because I've been somebody who said, yes, I want to see more of that. I want to see politicians go after the press if they feel that they've been aggrieved, right? So fair cop. But do you know who doesn't like politicians going after the press historically, James?
The press.
The press. The press has, over the last 3 years, what's something you can think of? Attacking the free press, acting like a dictator, tyrant, wants to see us all executed. These kinds of things are what the press, like Lawrence O'Donnell, would say after Donald Trump attacked a member of the press for saying something that he didn't like. Now, it's amazing, but it seems like all of the last 3 years of outrage have just evaporated into thin air. Thin air, gone. Because Lawrence O'Donnell is about to come out and fawn over this performance by Nancy Pelosi and praise her for it in a way that is sure to leave you sick to your stomach. Have a look at this.
I wanted to let you see her walk away from that microphone and walk out of that room so that you could feel the power of the silence that she created in that room.
Wait. Lawrence, feel the... Are you praising Nancy Pelosi for literally silencing the press at a press conference, Lawrence?
Yes.
Is that what he's doing, James? Am I wrong?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Feel the power of the dark side.
As a Catholic, I resent your words, young apprentice.
Rooms full of reporters in Washington are never silent. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen any member of Congress ever leave a room full of tough Capitol Hill reporters in stunned silence.
I can't... These people have no, inner voice at all. They have no inside voice. Like, if this was me, even if I was really impressed, the thing that I would have to go back and say, well, every time Donald Trump has criticized someone in a press gallery, I have criticized him for doing it. I've criticized him for attacking the press. I would have to do that. So I wouldn't be able to address this if I was Lawrence O'Donnell. But he doesn't give a fuck. 3 years of saying Donald Trump's wrong. Donald Trump's attacking the free press and this is dangerous, the kind of rhetoric that he's using. And instead, Nancy Pelosi comes out and says, you know what, fuck you. I resent you. You don't understand. How dare you do that? And he's like, oh, yeah, God bless Nancy. Fuck the power, James. Did you feel the power? She left them all silent. They couldn't even speak. Wait, it gets better.
James Rosen cowered in that stunned silence and did not dare throw the word hate at Nancy Pelosi again.
He cowered, James.
Nancy Pelosi was making the press cower before her. She's so fucking powerful.
After she crushed him in front of every other Capitol Hill reporter. And
she crushed him, James. Crushed him in front of every reporter.
Now the millions of people who have watched James Rosen get crushed in that video, like so much that Nancy Pelosi does in her unscripted bursts of eloquent moral indignation, this one was multidimensional.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ. Hey,
unscripted, articulate, moral indignation, James.
Yes.
That's what he calls that slobbering, slurring mess that was up there saying, I'm a Catholic, I pray for everybody, fuck you. What power?
I'm sorry. I know this isn't pirate radio. I realize that. And normally I wouldn't say this, but I have to. Hey, Lawrence, how's that asshole taste? I mean, come on. Like, this guy is going out of his way to lick her ass. I mean, say a few words, but this is pure fawning. This is like, Nancy, will you please marry me? Will you please have my children? I mean, this is incredible.
But the point still stands. I thought we were against politicians disrespecting the press.
Right.
So what happened to that? That's just all forgotten now because this is the thing. They care more about who's saying it rather than what's said. They care more about the personality rather than the principle, right? Oh, constant this theme is.
There she was.
Listen to this.
Standing up against hatred, as her Catholic religion has taught her to do since she was a little girl. And there she was, standing up.
Since she was a little girl, James.
Up for the Constitution, as she has sworn an oath to do. And surely there were some women still working at Fox News today who silently let out a cheer.
What is he talking about? What is he talking about?
He's talking about those oppressed women at Fox that work at Fox that they haven't reached their women's lib status yet and to be able to vocally say, "Oh, thank you, Nancy." Yes, that's what he's trying to infer here. This guy is batshit fucking crazy.
Sometimes I have to sit back and wonder why is public approval in the corporate press at all-time lows, James? Like, why would that be the case? Could it possibly be for things like this? Could it possibly be? Here's another one for you. Biden, the Irishman and the enduring power of aging white men. This comes to you from CNN, James. Now, the reason I'm picking this is more for this little video, much in the same vein. Okay, so the kind of behavior that we would have decried last week, the kind of behavior that we would have been against a month ago, a year ago, 3 years ago, we now celebrate, James. It's all about reframing. It's not so much about the incident, it's about how you portray the incident. That's why this episode is called Reframing Everything. Let's have a look.
Former Vice President Joe Biden firing back at a voter today after the retired farmer questioned the former vice president's age and fitness for the job and accused Biden of sending his son to work in Ukraine to sell access to President Obama. Take a listen.
It's even the way now I'm on record. Jake Tapper isn't even that bad in my opinion. I think Jake Tapper can be pretty fair, but even the way he's saying that, did you hear the cadence of the statement? Selling access to President Obama, like he's calling a Little League World Championship. Right. You know, like, it's so ridiculous. It's so insane. How could you even think to say such a thing?
Yep. But you, on the other hand, sent your son over there to get a job and work for a gas company that he had no experience in gas or nothing, in order to get access to the public, to the president. So you're selling access to the president just like he did. So you've got
a damn liar, man.
You're a damn liar, man.
No one has ever said that. No one has done that.
I see it on the TV.
You see it on the TV. No, I know you do. And by the way, that's why I'm not sedentary. I get up and no, let him go.
What? Let him go? What? Is this a fight? Wait a minute. Who was holding him back? What do you mean, let him go? This is Joe Biden and his delusions.
Biden's aides tried to step in and stop this from being a fucking shit show before it escalated, unsuccessfully.
I've been around a long time and I know more than most people know. And I can get things done. That's why I'm running. If you want to check my shape on, let's do push-ups together here, man. Let's run. Let's do whatever you want to do. Let's take a nice.
Woo! Yeah! Come on, fat boy. Let's do some push-ups. Huh?
He calls him fat in just a few minutes here. Just a few minutes.
Yeah,
he does call him fat. This fucking guy.
Obviously, that's what he's implying there, right? Like, you want to do push-ups? Come on, fat boy. You can't do push-ups. I can beat you. I'm tougher than you. It's like he's 15. But again, this is the kind of thing that, depending on the person, this could be an outrage cycle for the next week and a half. It's going to be outrage. How dare you speak to voters like that? Why don't you treat the man with some respect? What a pig, right?
I think that Joe is missing an opportunity here. Look, we all know he's struggling in the polls for real. Like, he doesn't have a lot of support. I think he should do pay-per-view geriatric boxing. He should just go for it and just do it. We'll just do pay-per-view, and he can call everybody names. We'll put a video of a barn behind him, so we can go, Joe's taking people behind the barn, and there'll just be a bunch of 71-year-olds out there with boxing gloves on, like trying to just throw jabs out there. It'll just be hilarious.
I once went 115 rounds with a Negro man named Corn Pop, so you've got nothing on him, fat boy. Come on. Did you want to get a knuckle sandwich over there? How do you like a taste of fisticuffs, young whippersnapper? What do you think of that? Can you keep up with that lightning? Have a look at these guns. Eh? Look at those pythons.
No one has said my son has done anything wrong, and I did not on any occasion.
No one has said.
No one has said it.
No one ever said it, James. No one ever said it.
has ever said he did anything wrong.
What about the guy asking the question? What about him?
What about
the guy
CNN? What about MSNBC? Even the people trying to defend you are saying he did something over there. You have to be in an insular bubble to think that nobody's ever said he did anything wrong. What?
Nobody. But he said, I saw it on the TV. He's like, you're a damn liar. Nobody ever said that. He's like, but I just said it then. You know what I mean? I just asked the question.
I didn't say you were doing anything wrong.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said?
That is wrong, though, to be fair, because it's a gas company, not an oil company.
Right.
Word straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that in MSNBC.
You didn't hear it on MSNBC. Deny it. Deny it.
You didn't hear what you thought you heard. Ding, ding, ding. You are getting sleepy. You are getting sleepy. All the things you thought you heard, you did not hear.
Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
Well, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do, but look, fat. Look, here's the deal.
Look, fat.
Look, fat.
Here's the deal.
Look, fat. Now, see, that alone, right? So if Trump said that, that would be reams and reams and reams of content, right? That would be the people on CNN and MSNBC, much in the similar vein to Lawrence O'Donnell in that previous clip, will be saying that is unpresidential behavior. That is disgusting to talk to a private citizen who's asking a question in that way. How dare you? This proves that he can't be president. This proves that the president is a small and tiny man with a bruised ego who reacts like a sociopathic man-child. Right? Fair? Okay, let's look at the difference.
He looks like you don't have any more backbone than Trump does.
Look how far out of the way Jake Tapper and the panel goes to frame this as a positive.
Hey, talk. Let him talk.
Any other questions?
And again, I have to put out the caveat here. Joe Biden talking like this to a person doesn't offend me in the slightest. Like, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, fucking why not? Go for it. If you feel that you're being, treated unfairly by somebody and they're accusing you of things, you can tear them to shreds. That's fine. Go for it, man. But the people who have a problem with politicians doing that are the press. And the press are now saying, yes, it's about time the politicians tore people to shreds.
Yeah, all right. I'm not voting for you.
Well, I knew you weren't, man.
I'm not voting for you anyhow. I'm not
You're too old to
vote for
vote
you anyhow.
Says the octogenarian.
Well, that escalated quickly. So, Jamal, this is other.
It was so whimsical and funny, and it just escalated quickly. Isn't that awesome?
Can you rewind that? Can you rewind that like 3 seconds? I want to listen to Jake Tapper say Jamal in the whitest tone of voice I've ever heard anyone say Jamal. It's so freaking hilarious. Just listen to how he says the name. It's freaking
what do you think of that, Jamal? What do you think of that, Jamal?
You're too old to go for me.
Well, that escalated quickly. Jamal.
Jamal! What the fuck was that? Jamal!
Hey, this has been a good week for Biden.
What?
What? Wait, what?
What are they watching over there at CNN?
How has this been a good week for Biden?
I don't know. I would like to learn. Teach me, Master. How is this a good week for? I guess I need to learn that Jedi mind shit. You know, you did not see that on CNN. Nobody ever said that ever. This has been a good week for Joe Biden. Oh, yes, Master. A good week.
Beyond that, John Kerry's going to endorse him tomorrow. There's been another.
Oh, goody.
A bunch of other good news for him. He's still high in the polls. Is that the right way to handle an accusation from a... By the way, that guy was saying Trump is bad and you're no better. He was not a Trump supporter. This was, I think according to the New York Times, this is an Elizabeth Warren supporter. Is that the right way to handle that?
Now, bear in mind, if Donald Trump did anything close to this, anything similar, as he has done in the past, the question, they wouldn't even be asking the question if this is a good way to handle it. They'd be saying that this is a terrible way to handle it. Look at the difference.
Listen, I think passion is always important. Showing people you take it seriously is important. The vice president almost wanting to get into fisticuffs with this guy in the back alley. I think that's
the right word for it.
Wow. Huh? How about that? Passion is important, James. Passion is important. Depends, though. The wrong kind of passion can be dangerous. Yeah. You know, your passion is dangerous, James. Any passion that the President of the United States has, that's dangerous. That's inciting violence. That's inciting hatred towards the press, James.
Right.
Joe Biden's passion, Nancy Pelosi's passion, well, that's important. I mean, that escalated quickly. Am I right? It's like he wanted to take him out the back for fisticuffs. It's important. He's so charming. Are they on track here, James?
I hope Joe wins the nomination. I really do. I hope that this is what they do. Because it's going to be so much fun at the debates when Joe's going, my dentures told me behind the fucking barn that the cockroaches were running, and you people don't know what the hell you're talking about. My son did nothing wrong. Just because he slept with his brother's wife, that ain't no big deal. You all do it all over the South. Y'all need to vote for me. I can't wait for these fucking debates.
Unbelievable, isn't it? Do you want to watch a bit more reframing here? I've got some fantastic reframing courtesy of the Washington Post, James.
Democracy every 4 years starts in Iowa. It's not a joke.
If you didn't think the corporate press, like Joe Biden, we've talked about this before, haven't we? Joe Biden is the safe corporate option, right? He's the guy that's just going to put it back business as usual. Okay, let's get back to business as usual. Let's get back to the lobbying companies doing what they want. Let's get those rivers of money flowing back into DC. Let's open it back up for, you know, global corporate entities to start taking control of things the way they used to. Let's start stacking the courts again. Let's start stacking the bureaucracy again. Joe's just going to sit there. He'll do what he's told. He's not going to make any waves. He is the safe corporate guy. Now, how would you describe, James, the last 3 months of the Biden campaign on the road? Would you say from scoring from 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest, how gratifying to Joe Biden, future president, do you think it's been?
Maybe a 2. I mean, you know, at least he got some people to show up for him. I mean, I think he filled a barbecue pit. I think he filled an elementary school theater bathroom.
That's good.
I mean, you know, he's getting, you know, somewhere. Did you see they did this big malarkey rally?
Yeah, no malarkey. No malarkey.
An hour before his speech, there was nobody there. Like, nobody. There wasn't even workers there. There wasn't even people, like, you know, trying to decorate the place an hour before the damn thing. And then he shows up and there was, like, I don't know, two press to every one person that showed up. I mean, that's pretty bad. I mean, the guy was in the bar, maybe 2-3 weeks ago, a bar. It had 4 people in it, and then, like, 2 people at the end walked out while he was still talking. They're like, this is a shit show. I'm out of here.
Right. So and there's been a lot of gaffes, right? And there's been a lot of incoherent ramblings. I mean, the thing with the touching of the legs in the pool, that was just strange. You had this one where he's attacking the voter. He's had other unhinged moments over the last month or so. So if you don't think that entities like the Washington Post are in the tank for the safe corporate option like Joe Biden, even if you didn't think that was the case, even if you didn't think that was possible, and I'm not showing this to like Donald Trump supporters. That's not what I'm getting at here. It's like, are you somebody on the Democrat side of the ledger who wants to see an end to people like Joe Biden, right? But you believe like the Washington Post and New York Times are doing straight down the line journalism. No. They're against you as well. They are for the global corporate entities. They are not for the average Democrat voter in Iowa or Pennsylvania or Wisconsin, right? Here's an example. They had to go around and collect all of the little Joe Biden quotes and stick them together and put it on the front page of the WAPO.
You are the starting gun. You have the key to the gate. You're the ones that shoot off the gun. You have an outsized and significant say in who's going to lead this country.
Campaigning for president in Iowa goes a little something like this.
Joe Biden is a rabid dog and should be beaten to death with a stick.
Yes!
I like that. Finally, Kim Jong-un and Trust and Verify, something they can agree on.
I want to know where that was published because I want to retweet that. Like, I want to know. Like, okay, he's making that claim that we said that. Where is that published? I want to retweet that. The absolute attack on Joe Biden. Was it from Camel Toe? Was it from Pocahontas?
I think it was Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-un who said that. But you shouldn't feel special, Joe. He insults everybody. So, you're nothing special. You're nothing flash.
Proud of that. The official news agency put out, you may have seen it, Joe Biden is a rabid dog. He should be beaten to death by a stick.
Part stand-up routine.
Now you notice the
Part
900
stand-up
candidates running
routine
for the nomination for president. And there's a lot of good people seeking the nomination. All 900 of them are good people.
Some question and answers.
Are you willing to speak about the religious right very candidly?
Listen to this.
And the threat of weaponized religion.
Weaponized religion?
What weaponized religion are we talking about, though?
Yeah. I mean, the last thing I knew, it was Islam blowing everybody up. I haven't seen the latest Catholic car bombing. I'm sorry. I haven't seen the latest.
Can we juxtapose this now? Can we juxtapose standing up against weaponized religion and then just put Nancy Pelosi saying, I'm a Catholic and I pray for everybody? Can we put that next to each other? They don't know what they want.
Can you say a little bit more about what you intend to do to restore?
Because, I mean, if in the Democrat ranks we are against, organized religion, then surely we must be against Nancy Pelosi, who even prays for Donald Trump because she's such a devout Catholic ever since she was a little girl, James. Like it's manic depressive. It's a very confused party right now.
Protect and expand reproductive justice.
I want to ask you how
reproductive justice. Reproductive justice. So it used to be abortion rights, then it became abortion justice. Now it's reproductive rights. Now it's reproductive justice, James. I heard a great quote from somebody. I can't remember who said it. If you have to put justice on the end of the word, then it's not really justice, right? If you have to put another word in front of justice, then it's not justice.
Somebody in the chat, Brent Eagle 59 said the Amish have been quiet lately.
Absolutely. Stand up. Stand up. Which English are you voting for? Come on now.
Internationally.
And of course, the selfie line.
The selfie line, James.
We were late from the last event.
Getting selfies with all the young people. He's very hip and cool.
Because something's happening here in Iowa on this bus trip.
Former Vice President Joe Biden is making up for lost time with an 8-day bus tour across the state.
Wow. 8 days. 8 whole days, James. Very busy. No malarkey.
Biden has spent less time in Iowa than any other top-tier candidate, and Iowans have taken notice.
I'm so glad you're doing the No Malarkey Tour because, as I said, this is the first time you've been in Ames, and I think that's the reason why Mayor Pete urged ahead.
A lot of older people there. Have you noticed at Joe Biden's events?
Mayor Pete surged ahead.
Mayor Pete. Yeah. Mayor Pete's leading in Iowa now. Mayor Pete is kicking ass in Iowa. I don't know. Maybe. Well, I mean, we identified him on this show as the dark horse. Like what?
We did
12 months ago now.
Yeah, we did
12 months ago.
In fact, I think we've been pretty correct on the entire top five.
Sorry, say again.
I think you've been pretty correct in the entire top five. We even called that you called the dark horse. We said what was going on with Biden. It was going to be Biden Pocahontas. I mean, we said Bernie was going to make noise and get paid off again. We said that the other candidates were all there just to do a shit show. I mean, none of them thought they were ever going to get the nomination. I mean, I think we've been pretty accurate for the beginning, at least 12 months ago.
Absolutely. I think that Mayor Pete, even though I think I said 12 months ago, he's progressive, but he's also can speak the moderate tongue. Right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's what you're finding here, because there is an internal battle now going in the Democrat Party between the far left and the moderate, believe it or not, the moderates, of which Mayor Pete is probably better suited, and he's younger, right? And he's got the military bird shit on his shoulder. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He's gay, right? So he ticks boxes, because that's what they care about, is box ticking. They want to tick all the boxes. The only bad thing for him is he's white, unfortunately. So I guess that rules him out. I've got another clip here. I'm not sure why I have this saved. It is Jerry Nadler. Let's have a little look.
If Pat Cipollone shows up tomorrow, you going to let him in? President's Council?
He has said he's not showing up.
I understand that. But if he just changes his mind, this is the President of the United States, you never know. He might be tweeting it as you and I are speaking. Hey, I'm sending my lawyer tomorrow. You going to let him?
We'd have to decide that. He is guilty at this point of the most blatant contempt of Congress.
Who's guilty? The president?
No, Cipollone.
Cipollone.
What?
Cipollone is guilty in contempt of Congress. Hang on, he walks it back the very next sentence, James. He walks it back.
I don't mean as a crime, but
he's guilty, but I don't mean as a crime. Are you following along at home? Is the impeachment proceeding making sense to everybody? You're getting hold of this. Remember, Jerry Nadler and the other Democrats have been demanding that representatives for the White House show up and testify, right? They must testify. They must come in and answer the questions. And so Chuck Todd says, well, okay, if the president's attorney turns up, are you going to let him in? Well, I don't think so. I mean, he's been very rude. He's been very rude to us. Why would we let him in?
Okay. But just the contempt dripping from the several letters he sent us. But that is
because the letters he sent us were dripping with contempt. Therefore, he's guilty of contempt of Congress. Mm. These people are unhinged, James.
Yes.
Unhinged.
Can
I bring up an article?
Hang on, before you move away from that subject, because I address this on my shows, but I want to give you a chance to address this, because that entire thing there is a psychological play. Okay, and I think it's important that we keep letting people see this for themselves. Is that what they're trying to do is to get you to lend credibility to their clearly unfair process. If you start a court proceeding in the way that they have started this shit show, you can't then 5 weeks into a trial say, okay, now you can have all your rights. You've already introduced 5 weeks of bullshit. You can't keep the same jury. You can't do this. That's why you can understand what they're doing is a psychological play on you. It's just like, why do they want us all talking about Nixon, Clinton, Johnson? Why do they want us talking about that? Because they want you to mentally draw a comparison that these two things are the same, when what they're getting you to do psychologically is skip over evidence. By drawing that equation and you saying, this is just like Watergate, this is just like whatever, Clinton, whatever, even arguing, they want you to do this psychologically. So I want you to talk about that.
Well, I don't want to interrupt, but it's worse than that. I have a clip later on from Brian Stelter for the hammering. The impeachment report, he even admits it on his show. The Democrats have specifically designed this impeachment report to look like the one that was done for Richard Nixon. Like they've used the same font, the same design, everything. He says to make it look like the one from Richard Nixon's impeachment inquiry, right? See, I think Jerry Nadler goes on here, but I just want to double check because I think it speaks to your point. That's so serendipitous you brought that up.
He has said he's not going to come, so I think that's a very academic question. The president was invited to submit a testimony, was invited to send his counsel. He has declined to do so.
I want to
see, because I would have thought the time to submit testimony is when you can cross-examine people. I would have thought the time to submit testimony would be during a trial, not during an inquiry, right?
Right.
Because if it's not going to be a fair process, like you're only doing damage to your own side if you go in there with Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff. You saw the way that they were running these inquiries, like just stopping people from asking questions, people trying to bring up points of order, just ignoring them. I mean, Jerry Nadler even at one point said, no, too late. We're finishing now. Too late. Sorry. Like, he's just doing whatever the hell he wants, basically. Why would you go in there and subject yourself to that when the time to do that is during a trial? Why would you give people what you've got in your tank? Like, why would you show your cards before you have to play them? That doesn't make any sense. Nadler knows that. That's why they only got wall-to-wall sympathetic witnesses. Because everybody else is like, oh, hang on, are we on trial here? No. Then what the hell am I going there for?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I would have thought that's pretty obvious to people.
That's
apparently
exactly
not.
That's exactly what they want. I've even equated this to how you handle trolls. Is what they want is you talking about their narrative. They don't care if you're defending it. That's exactly what they want. They now, after introducing all of the smoke and mirrors, now they want the president to quote. This is a quote from all of the Democrats, to defend himself. See, it's in the language. They're telling you they want the president to be playing defense and to be lending legitimacy to their smoke and mirrors. Fuck you. We don't play defense. We play offense. Go fuck yourselves.
That's right. You should come in here and answer to these what you say are fictitious claims against you. Why should I do that?
Yep.
Why should I do that? No, you just keep talking to yourselves. You just keep going because it's not working out the way they want. Why would I disrupt that? Why would I come in and give them fodder? It doesn't work that way. Put me on trial, then I'll answer the questions. But until then, sorry, you have no right to demand them. Team Trump wants to steal another election, James. Impeachment is how to beat them. Impeachment is how to beat them. They're to use an Alex Jones term, they're uncloaking here. They're opening the kimono. They're showing you what they're doing. Trump loves the massive grift he's running on the nation, but he knows he can't win a fair election. He's almost done. See how you reverse everything? So Trump has been saying for the last 3 years, they can't beat me in a fair fight. That's why they want to impeach me. They're now saying Trump knows he can't win in a fair election. That's why we have to impeach him. Because he's going to cheat. When I was growing up at Fort Leavenworth, Kansas, back in 1960s, my mother drove down to Kansas City one morning to go shopping and have lunch with an old friend of her mother's. They always have to open up with these little stories. Ladies going out shopping and having lunch in the upscale country club plaza in Kansas City was almost a formal occasion, James. I remember she put on a summary suit? A summary suit? What the hell is a summary suit?
It's kind of a hat. Yeah, it's a cross between one of those sumo suits that you put on and a big hat. So you wear the sumo suits with a big hat.
Summary suit. I love it. And heels and stockings. That must be hard to get your center of gravity. And I'm pretty sure she wore a pair of white cotton gloves. I love those outfits. When she returned a few hours later, she wasn't carrying any bags from the shops and she was seething. The woman she'd eaten lunch with was married to a man who owned a chain of downtown hotels in major cities around the country. I smell a Donald Trump parable coming up. They lived in a big Tudor house in Mission Hills, the Beverly Hills of the Midwest. She drove a Cadillac. She was rich. Why was my mother so angry? Well, was it that her mother's friend talked about throughout their lunch? That week, she had gone to the bankruptcy auction of a chain of Midwestern drugstores and had bought 1,000 pairs of stockings for a nickel apiece. She couldn't stop talking about it, my mother said. She bought 50 makeup compacts, 100 bottles of her favorite nail polish, and 100 color-matching Revlon lipsticks. She'd gotten the whole load, the stockings and the makeup and the nail polish, for less than $100. She's rich, Mum practically screamed. She could afford to buy a whole drugstore full of stuff at full price, and she could talk about how much money she'd saved. I couldn't take it. I finished my lunch and made an excuse that I had a headache and left. I'm never going to see her again. Friendship over, James.
Yep.
Now listen to this. How does Donald Trump fit into this fucking memoir? I'm glad you asked. Donald Trump is the woman from Kansas City writ large. He's the woman. He's a cheap, penny-pinching, rich bastard who's trying to steal another election so he can keep enriching himself in office. He's gotten a taste of living the high life on the taxpayer's dime, and he loves it, James.
What?
Everything he's done since January of 2017 has had one goal in mind: remaining in the White House as long as he possibly can. Again, with this stupid argument. Everything Donald Trump does is about re-election. That's what every politician does. How else do you explain Nancy Pelosi and Jerry Nadler being there literally for 3 fucking decades? Because everything they do is about re-election. That's how. That's why they're still there after 30 years. Right?
Let me just point something real quick. I mean, I know everybody knows the president donates his salary, but here's something not a lot of people may understand, including the idiots that write this drivel. Do they not realize that the entire pantry of the White House is paid for by the president? That literally Nancy Reagan even spoke about this. And when she got the first bill for all of the food, she was like, I don't even know if we how to pay. I don't have a bank account. And they're like, well, the first lady normally pays for all this stuff. We don't take this to the president, right? But she had to go to Ronald Reagan to get the money to pay for the stuff in the larder, which the pantry, all the food. So it's literally costing Donald Trump. Now, why do people like this think that he's living high on the hog on the government? Because that's exactly what happens for the Congress. See, the Congress voted themselves to be able to write all that shit off, and all that shit's paid for by you and me. But that's not true for the president. Unless they change the law, which I don't think they did, unless they change the rules, that White House, all those meals, all the food for his guests, all that shit's paid for by him out of his own pocket. So when I see stuff like this, I'm like, you people are so cringe. You don't even know what's going on.
Well, it's worse than that because they just lie. Look at this. Yeah. You could ascribe at least some of those costs to simply getting the president where he wants to go during his time off. But let's take a single part of that cost that Trump himself could cover for the government if he wasn't so cheap. The cost of golf carts used by the Secret Service to follow Trump around while he plays golf. According to Yahoo Finance, we taxpayers have spent $550,000 for the Secret Service to rent golf carts from Trump at his own golf courses since he took office, okay? That's the claim. $500,000 of taxpayer money going to Trump for golf carts. Let me bring you this. Factcheck.org. Schiff Shanks golf cart story. Rep. Adam Schiff mistakenly claimed that the Secret Service has paid Trump Organization over $150,000 for the privilege of renting Donald Trump golf carts to protect Donald Trump on his rounds. In fact, the federal agency rents golf carts from other companies, James. After criticizing the Trump Organization's involvement in an Indonesian theme park resort that is being built by a Chinese government-owned company, Schiff turned to the Trump Organization's domestic businesses and questioned whether it is ethical for the president's company to make money off the federal government. Schiff's office told us that the $150K figure comes from a November 2017 USA Today story that cited the research of American Bridge 21st Century PAC, a Democratic opposition research group. But the USA Today story did not say that the Secret Service is renting Donald Trump golf carts. It cited one company, Golf Car and Utility Vehicle Distributors in Florida. It made no reference to any Trump-owned companies receiving payment. Our research found 14 contracts to those two companies totaling $212,000, including an $8,000 contract that Golf Car and Utility Vehicle Distributors signed December 15, 2016, when Trump was the president-elect. There is no evidence that the Secret Service rented golf carts from Trump companies. American Bridge spokesman Harold Kirsten told us, "We haven't found the contracts going to any Trump companies," end quote.
There you go.
But if you read this one more time, The cost of golf carts used by the Secret Service to follow Trump around while he plays golf. According to Yahoo Finance, we taxpayers have spent $500,000 for the Secret Service to rent golf carts from Trump at his own golf courses since he took office. It's just a lie.
It's a lie, straight up.
Just a straight out lie. A straight out lie. And see, the problem is, I think the lie is always more enticing than the reality. And part of what I've seen, like the de-evolution of the corporate press, James, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Part of what I've seen, like the de-evolution of the corporate press, is somebody who's been reading newspapers for as long as I can remember. When I was a kid, I used to read 4 or 5 newspapers a day, right? How many 12-year-olds do that? Okay. So, it's always been an avid news watcher, always been a follower of politics, was brought up on it. As somebody who's watched the de-evolution of the press, the sensationalism is stark to me, and it's obvious and it's overt. They're taking very mundane things and trying to turn them into sensational things for the sake of getting public support behind this drive to either chip away at his support base or just end his presidency completely. Yep. But if you take a step back and actually look at things as they are, just think about it logically. Do you think with all of the scrutiny on Donald Trump right now that he would be doing things overtly illegal and overtly unethical, like spending $500,000 on fucking golf carts at his own golf courses, right? Do you think that would be happening? Do you think his minders would let that happen?
And Deborah Brudeau 10 in the chat on Periscope makes an excellent point. The people believe it because the last president did it. The last people, Obama was doing this shit, and so that's why they believe it, because they were fucking stealing the money all over the place. There is documentation in the mainstream media how he stole money and moved it from one program to another. I mean, it's insane what they did. So that's why the people believe it, because there's a history there of those corrupt sons of bitches like the Clintons and the Obamas and the Bushes all doing shit like this.
Yeah, and like the lie is sexier than the truth, though, isn't it?
Nope.
See, it doesn't matter. Once you get it to print, once it circulates, once it gets retweeted, once it's out there and people are talking about it. See, it's like you're trying to play chess with someone, but you can only see half of the board. Half of the board is covered up. So you don't know where their pieces are all the time. When a news story breaks, people are working on incomplete information. As long as you present that information in a certain kind of way, like look at how he was fawning over Nancy Pelosi, look how they are now reframing Joe Biden's outburst. If you present the information in a certain way, people will make up the rest of the story themselves.
That's right.
It's just basic human nature. So all you have to do is get these little figures out there, like you were talking about with Jerry Nadler. This episode is all about how they frame stuff, and framing is everything. The president won't come and answer to his crimes. He's obviously guilty then. And it's like, but hang on, he's not even on trial. He's not even on trial yet. Passion is important when Joe Biden attacks, people in the public. But hang on, last week you were saying that this is unpresidential, right? It just never ends. It's a constant battle of reframing everything. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And if you just put these little factoids out there, these little nuggets for people to chew on, they'll believe it, and you won't be able to convince them otherwise. Even if you have the facts, even if you have the data, they will refuse to see it. They will refuse to believe it because they've already written the story themselves to go along with it.
Yep, I've got to highlight a comment just now from WordSmiter because it's so true, but there's a parallel here that I want everybody to make and to see for themselves. A lie travels the world before the truth puts on its pants. Now, I want you to understand, the same is true over what we're doing right now with the criminal prosecutions of the bad guys. Just keep in mind, the corruption travels the world before the justice gets its pants on. That's why these things take time, is because the good guys can't break the law the way the bad guys do. And that's the truth of the matter. It's an exactly perfect parallel there. To say that's exactly right.
I once watched a lecture by a counter-terrorism expert who was giving us a talk on security, and international security and how they track these terror cells and stuff. It was very interesting to a nerd like me, but most people were probably falling asleep in the audience. And one line stuck with me. He said, the fundamental problem is, like, it's a mathematical equation. He said the fundamental problem is we have to get it right every single time. We have to get every single event, every single action, every single piece of intel, all has to be right 100% of the time. He said the bad guys only have to get it right once, and we are forever wrong.
That's it.
So
great comment on YouTube. Black Banna says the takeaway from that story is don't wear pants.
I like it. I'm down. This is a very juicy one. This is a very juicy, ironic little clip for you here, James. Trump and Giuliani calls spark spying fears. Are you ready for this? Again, this is another framing angle that is going to take you aback. Have a look at this. This will float your boat.
Tonight, there are new concerns that Rudy Giuliani's communications with President Trump about possible dirt in Ukraine on the Bidens could be monitored by the Russians.
So now we're concerned that the Russians are listening to every phone conversation. Now, why is this concerning, are you asking yourself? Good, I'm glad you asked.
One concern would be that, say, the Russians maybe have compromised Giuliani's phone.
The Washington Post, citing current and former U.S. officials, reports the president has routinely communicated with Giuliani and others over cell phones and other lines that are not secure.
Hold on.
Trump and Giuliani have communicated over cell lines that aren't secure. James, weren't they leaking private conversations that Donald Trump had with world leaders on secure lines?
Yeah, exactly.
So what the fuck are they talking about?
Exactly. It's like saying that the Russians were all idiots and couldn't spy before this. Rewind it though, just a tick. Rewind just a tick. I want to see the freeze frame of Rudy Giuliani on the phone real quick. I want to see the freeze frame of Rudy. Right there.
There he is, doing the thinking man pose.
I want everybody to look at that phone in his hand. Do you see what that is right there? Why it's oversized? This is
because it's in a case.
You realize what the technology that our people have to prevent spying through this stuff? I've talked about this before. Everybody acts like the government cell phones go through the same cell phone servers. It's not the towers, it's the servers that matter. That shit is not going over fucking public airwave servers. Okay, it's the servers. The military's routing all of that. They've got control of the whole thing. Remember, a cell phone is just a radio. That's all it is. All your cell phones are just radios. These are on completely encrypted networks, okay? It's completely different than what people think it is. It's just insane that these people can get away with this because people aren't paying attention to what's going on. Like, it's just, you can look at stuff. If you have an understanding of what the technologies are out there, you can just look at that video and go, yep, he's on a secure phone. I mean, it's pretty fucking simple.
But I just find it amazing. Here we are. They are applauding people as being, quote, whistleblowers, James. They're applauding people in the intelligence service in the United States, in their own government, for releasing transcripts of private conversations that the president had with former Australian Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and the former Mexican president, right? Or is he the current Mexican president? I'm not sure.
No, it was the last one, Nieto. Peña Nieto is the one that was released. So Turnbull, Peña Nieto was released, and then there was something else that the whole phone call didn't get released, but I can't remember which one it was. But it was a European conversation that got released, though.
Right, but they're celebrating the fact that they're releasing the transcripts of these phone calls, and then they come out and then they blame the White House. They say, "Oh, the White House is full of leaks. He can't control the White House staff because look, we're getting access to these phone calls. That shouldn't be happening." Yeah. So, like wrap up smear stuff. So now that they're having conversations on their own network, which apparently they can't get access to, why you can't do that? Because now Putin's listening. Putin's listening to the phone conversation. It's fucking garbage.
Yeah, it's absolute shit. Smokey makes a great comment in the chat, and so it gives me a good chance to promote another platform that's anti-Big Brother, is Telegram. So Telegram is where a lot of people do a lot of secure communication. Yes, there's a big portion of it that's unsecure. But did you know that if you use Telegram to phone call anyone in your contacts list and they have Telegram, it's end-to-end encrypted, which means that the server for Telegram can't even interpret your phone call. So if this technology is available to you for free, what the fuck do you think the president's got? I mean, come on. I mean, the technology's out there for free at the Google fucking Play Store. End-to-end encryption. That means from my device to your device. Okay? All the secret chat, when you do secret chat on Telegram, it's the same way. Secret chat is end-to-end encryption. Okay? It goes directly from device to device. It does not use server authentication. The server merely passes the communication along. It's looking for the code of the phone. But the entire thing is encrypted. Every syllable is encrypted, the entire length of the conversation. So if we have that available to us for free, anyone writing this drivel can't use their own cell phone.
I just find it amazing. The private conversations between President Trump and other world leaders, they're fair game. The private phone records of private citizens and journalists, they're fair game too. Remember John Solomon, his private phone calls got released. Devin Nunes, we can release his private phone calls. But if Donald Trump calls up Rudy Giuliani, that's a problem, not because of us, but because of Russia. I mean, it's unbelievable. I can't even believe that they've got the balls to put that on the news. But they have the balls. James, since we love Catholicism again, since Nancy Pelosi has come out as a devout Catholic, and we love the Catholics now. Round of applause for the Catholics. We love Catholicism. Or do we? Or so it would seem. Barr dives into the culture wars and social conservatives rejoice, James. The Attorney General embodies the combative culture and conservative ideology that animate the president and the Republican Party. Can I just say again for the 500th time, the president is not a conservative. He is a New York liberal. In the 1970s, he would have been running for president as a Democrat. Do you understand that? I think a lot of conservatives see in Donald Trump the best chance that they've had for the last 20 or 30 years, but that doesn't mean that Donald Trump himself is, a hardline Christian conservative. When President Trump nominated William P. Barr as Attorney General a year ago, establishment Republicans who had chafed at Mr. Trump's takeover of their party were relieved. Between Mr. Barr's work in the Reagan White House and his fast-track career under George Bush, he could be a bridge to the Republican Party they knew and preferred. How wrong they were, James. Mr. Barr has eagerly embraced the most divisive and disputed aspects of the Trump agenda, much to the delight of the party's hardline conservatives who see him as an indispensable ally in their fight to push the country further to the right on issues like religious liberty, immigration, and policing. That makes him a natural fit in the Republican Party that Mr. Trump has remade in his mold. But it worries critics in both parties who fear that Mr. Barr is eroding the Justice Department's traditional independence in law enforcement, James. They point to his handling of the Mueller report, which he summarized in a letter widely seen as more favorable to Mr. Trump. You know why it was seen as more favorable to Mr. Trump? Because it pointed out what was in the Mueller report, which was nothing. That's why. And his appointment of a prosecutor to re-examine the opening of the Russia investigation, which Mr. Trump has long impugned. To the conservatives who make up the most solid foundation of the president's base, a wing of the Republican Party that is generally more uncompromising on social issues and enthusiastic about political combat with the left, Mr. Barr is the template of the public servant they envisioned when Mr. Trump promised to give them greater influence in his administration. He is a devoted Catholic, James, who said he believes the nation needs a moral renaissance to restore the Judeo-Christian values in American life. He has been unafraid to use his platform as the nation's top law enforcement officer to fight the cultural changes they believe are making the country more inhospitable and unrecognizable. So since we love Catholics again, I thought we could just take a little moment here to observe William Barr at a speech at the University of, how would you say it, Notre Dame or Notre Dame? Notre Dame. a speech he gave at the University of Notre Dame, James, talking about social issues. I'm only playing this because we love Catholics again, thanks to Nancy Pelosi. So well done, Nancy. Now this is all back on the table. Devout Catholic since she was a little girl. She prays for everybody. Good for her.
Secularists and their allies have marshaled all the forces of mass communication, popular culture, the entertainment industry, and academia in an unremitting assault on religion and traditional values. These instruments are used not only to affirmatively promote secular orthodoxy, but also to drown out and silence opposing voices and to attack viciously and hold up to ridicule any dissidents.
During a speech at Notre Dame in 2019, attorney Bill Barr explained how secularists are assaulting religious freedoms.
As some have observed, is that the secular project has itself become a religion pursued with religious fervor. It is taking on all the trappings of religion, including inquisitions and excommunication. Those who defy the creed risk a figurative burning at the stake, social, educational, and professional ostracism and exclusion waged through lawsuits and savage social media campaigns. We call on the state to mitigate the social costs of personal misconduct and irresponsibility. So the reaction to growing illegitimacy is not sexual responsibility, but abortion. The reaction to drug addiction is safe injection sites. The solution to the breakdown of the family is for the state to set itself up as an ersatz husband for the single mother and an ersatz father for the children.
I love it.
Wow.
The call comes for more and more social programs.
Did you hear this speech when he gave it in October? This is fire.
I didn't, but this thing is on fire. I mean, I know he's gotten high praise from everybody. I just never had a chance to actually watch the whole speech, so I haven't seen this before. But yeah, I did know though by reading about it that he had brought the heat.
Oh yeah,
programs to.
Well, I'm only playing it because we love Catholics again, so it's fair, right?
Deal with this wreckage, and while we think we're solving problems, we are underwriting them.
I think he's looking for the good old days back when white men were in charge and women.
Do you think that these people have any idea how ridiculous they sound when that's the criticism of something that you just heard then?
No, I don't think that they have the intelligence to actually get through life.
Engage it.
I mean, I just don't. I think they live at such a surface level that they're incapable of deep thought. That's exactly why the comment that you saw on the screen where it said, literally the things he said, like we're watching it right now. We're watching people with less than 100 followers lose their PayPal accounts. We're watching people with 10 followers lose their Periscope accounts. We are watching people be demonetized because of their political views. Everything he's saying in the speech is happening right now. That's excommunication. That's burning at the stake. You have CNN attacking grandmothers, private citizens.
Inquisitions.
Inquisitions. I mean, all of these things are happening. We're watching them happen. And then the leftist media, they literally get out there and it's like everything he said just slipped right by. They see it through this prism of social justice.
It's just a racist.
That's right.
Just
and
a
it's
racist.
so surface level, they can't get to the depth of the meaning. They can't draw parallels. I think they lack the intelligence. I really do. And oftentimes these pseudo-intellectuals are the exact trolls that go all over social media. That you can tell that they're pseudo-intellectual, that they have no ability to think through things. They can only repeat things that they've heard from somebody else. They have no original thought.
Yeah, and it's stupid too once you look into the data, and people can do this on their own bat. There are great academics in this area. I would recommend Jason Riley, who wrote a book, Please Stop Helping Us, and the great Thomas Sowell, who, if you actually go back to previous generations, where they're talking about, oh, William Barr wants to go back to the good old days of old white men controlling everything. Well, in those so-called good old days back in the 50s, there weren't so many cases of African-American children growing up without fathers. They actually had more structured family units than the white people did, right? Less children were born out of wedlock in black families than in white families, right? So do you know where Christianity is rising, where Christianity is growing more quickly than anywhere else, James? In Africa.
Yeah.
In Africa. It's declining in the white Christian countries. It's rising in places like Africa.
Even her comment in just that surface again is disingenuous, because I'll just remind everybody, you can go back in the history books. The first black congressman ever elected, by the way, he was a Republican. It was in the 1800s. So when were the good old days when the white men were in charge? I just want to know, because since the 1800s, there's been black conservatives elected to Congress. So technically, it's always been at least a biracial power structure, other than the Democrat Party. Yeah, the first Democrat black that was elected to Congress was something like 1970 something. I mean, yeah, they were way behind. They were like 100 years behind the Republican Party. So,
well, they're making up for lost time, because when you get into this habit of calling everything racist because you're either too dim-witted or too programmed to see anything but racism, you end up creating little traps for yourself, James. Did you see this? Apparently this was a controversy. Michael Bloomberg, did you see this? I feel like Jay Leno now. Did you see this, Kevin? See this? See this
why no,
controversy
Jay?
of Michael
Why no,
Bloomberg?
Jay? Dun-dun-dun. What do you got for us?
What do you got for us? Michael Bloomberg had to come out and apologize for a racist comment. Now, when you hear the racist comment, we're going to play a little game with the chat. When you hear the racist comment in what Michael Bloomberg says, I want you to press 1, okay? Now, keep your ears open. It's a very obvious racist comment. It's very, very bigoted. It's very overt. It's disgusting, James. Very obviously racist, okay? So when you hear it, press 1 in the chat.
The race for 2020, Democrats are increasingly taking aim at each other, trying to draw distinct differences in a still crowded field. But the newest candidate is already under fire, forced to explain some of his comments less than 2 weeks after he launched his campaign.
Okay, here we go.
This morning, Michael Bloomberg facing new accusations of being racially out of touch.
Cory Booker endorsed me a number of times, and I endorsed Cory Booker a number of times. He's very well spoken. He's got some good ideas.
Did you hear the racist comment there? No, I'm being serious. I'm being serious. I'll play it again. I want you now. Press 1 in the chat when you hear the racist comment. Patience, right? Press 1 in the chat. You're being a smartass. I know you didn't hear it. I know you didn't hear it.
A number of times, and I endorsed Cory Booker a number of times. He's very well spoken. He's got some good ideas.
Did you hear it that time?
He's very well spoken.
Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you the Daily Beast. Michael Bloomberg, I shouldn't have called Cory Booker well-spoken.
You know where this comes from, right? You know what the origin of this is, actually.
I don't care where it comes from. It is fucking insane. You people are mad. You're stark raving mad.
It literally comes from Joe Biden. He's clean, man. He's well-spoken. We got a black guy, clean and articulate. That's literally where it comes from, the original racist. So now the well-spoken thing has to be racist. So now Michael Bloomberg using the same phrase has to be racist. These people are batshit fucking lunatic.
It's insane. It is insane. He was giving the guy a compliment.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a situation where somebody would say to somebody else, he's well-spoken, and that could be seen as some kind of racist taunt. Like, I can't even put those two things together. Yeah. And normally I'm pretty good at this kind of thing. Normally I can put myself in the mind of somebody who has, specific views about race and stuff, and I can try to understand where they're coming from. This goes well beyond me. This goes past me, because this is so far out of the realm of common sense. Like, It's mind-numbing. I don't even know where to start.
Michael
Michael Bloomberg, former New York mayor and current 2020 Democratic candidate, said Friday that he should. What's worse, he came out and apologized for giving the guy a compliment. Fucking what? He came out and said that he shouldn't have called fellow candidate Cory Booker well-spoken during a TV interview that aired Friday. He said, I probably shouldn't have used that word. What the hell is wrong with these people? Seriously. Like, where do you even go from here?
Someone just said, Boogie, you're well-spoken.
I'm well-spoken. How dare you?
How dare you? Listen, Michael Bloomberg actually had a much more racist comment that they could have chosen. Like a significantly racist comment if you think about it, right? Because of the left's montage, what they have going on in their brain, what their talking points are. Michael Bloomberg came out and said that he keeps the poor people poor because they're not smart enough to make good decisions for themselves. He said that. So that is way more racist than any imagined bullshit here. That's easy to spin into racism. Well, the predominant number of poor people are actually blacks and Hispanics, so he must have been talking about them as a racist point of view by keeping the poor people poor, that they're too stupid to spend their own money. Like, that is... But see, that is in line with the Democrat talking points. That's why they're not highlighting that. But they need to attack Michael Bloomberg because they have to protect the golden calf, which is Joe Biden.
Right. And this is the other thing. I did this on my show, which you can tune into Monday through Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, ladies and gentlemen, right here on DLive, the Daily Boogie. Follow at Boogie Bumper, DLive.tv, Boogie Bumper. Thank you for that gratuitous plug. I covered this on my show. When Kamala Harris stepped out of the race, James, I made the point that diversity isn't that as important to Democrat voters as the media and the political class will have you believe it is. And it's evidenced by the fact that the top 4 frontrunners for the Democrat nomination are all white people, right? But they couldn't admit this reality on CNN and MSNBC. And they're still sticking to the line. Kamala Harris is so important for this race because she's diversity. Cory Booker came on and said he's angry that Kamala Harris has stepped down. He's angry that the front runners are white people because there's not enough diversity in the race anymore. But Cory, this is what people want. They're voting for the candidates that they want. They're polling the candidates that they want to poll for. So he comes out and accuses them of racism. His own voters, James, which is insane. Now, listen to this. On CBS this morning, Bloomberg said he thought Booker was well-spoken and had some good ideas. What a horrible thing to say. Language which some saw as condescending and racially loaded. I mean, can you fucking imagine how many people out there, though, would say of Cory Booker, yeah, he's well-spoken, he's got some good ideas. You know, like, what's wrong? That's a fucking... If you are turning compliments into racist attacks, nobody's going to give you any compliments anymore, Einstein. Holy shit.
And
Booker said he was... Wait, listen for Booker's reaction. Listen to what Booker said in response. This is unbelievable to me. He was taken aback by Bloomberg's comments because they echoed tired tropes that showed a lack of understanding. The fact that they don't understand is problematic. What the hell is he talking about? What the hell is he talking about?
I don't even know. I can't think of a subject where that comment applies to. That's why I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. But here's the funny thing is, what does all of the left, the media, the candidates, the trolls, what do all of the left criticize Donald Trump for? Oh, he's an infant. He can't speak well. He can't talk right. He can't tweet correctly. He can't spell. So literally, Bloomberg saying he's well-spoken is a direct parallel of attacking Donald Trump for the fact that he can't speak well. It's even in their narrative, and they still have to attack Bloomberg for something. So they're going to attack him for that. It's absolute insanity.
Well, can I just... Can I pin my very tolerant and progressive colours to the mast, James, which is displayed in a rainbow flag, a glorious rainbow flag, which we call New Glory, by the way. New Glory is, writhing about on the pole and shining her rainbow. Well, here's, I don't want to be gender specific, its colours, It's rainbow colours on the poll. And so can I just come out and say that Cory Booker speaks like a fucking moron, just to prove that I'm not racist?
That's a virtue
Cory
signal.
Booker makes no sense whatsoever.
That's virtue signaling, man. You can't do that. Come on. Now you're virtue signaling.
Now I'm sucking up.
Now you're sucking up.
Oh, Boogie, would you stop trying so hard to make friends with the black guy? Stop telling him that he sounds like a fucking idiot. Would you stop trying? It's disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. All right. Let's get to the well-spoken Brian Stelter, James, in this week's edition of The Hammering.
Stop the hammering.
This is fantastic because this is going to be a cross-section of a bunch of topics, James, that you and I have spoken about ad nauseum since we first met, really. How important is the media? Its diminishing importance. How important is what you do? You know, for example, on your little Periscope shows, James. Your little driving around shows that you do, whatever. Nobody's paying attention. Nobody cares. Nobody's listening to people unlike James on Twitter. Nobody gives a fuck. Brian Stelter disagrees. Brian Stelter thinks it's very important, and Brian Stelter has now come to admit just how important it is.
Let's do something a little bit different. Let's go way back in time today. Way back in time, because President Trump is the
all you can do is step back in time.
Fourth president in U.S. history to face impeachment in the House. Can you imagine how the news spread during the impeachment of Andrew Johnson in 1868? It spread by print newspaper, by telegram, by mail, and by word of mouth.
I think Brian's talking about the good old days when white people controlled everything, by the way.
It spread very slowly. Now, fast forward 100 years. The move to impeach Richard Nixon played out on live broadcast TV. And then by the time Bill Clinton was impeached, there was broadcast and cable TV, but it was still traditional one-to-many media that ruled the day.
Traditional one-to-many media. See how these people just can't help themselves? See how they're underlying, the subtext of contempt that they have for the audience just oozes out of them in their choice of words and the way they deliver it. One-to-many media, the good old days, where somebody like me would come up here and say things and all of you would believe it. And that would be the end of it, right? Very subtle, but it's there. I'll again, I've said it before, I'll repeat the words of James O'Keefe, who very succinctly and very profoundly once said that journalism is an activity, not an identity. And the problem with modern journalism is they see journalism as an identity and not an activity.
The World Wide Web was still new. It was happening around this time of year, right? December of 19...
Brian Stelter showing his boomer cred there by calling it the World Wide Web.
1998. But the internet was barely a powerful force yet. Look, there are some obvious parallels between the Clinton and Trump impeachments,
Here
right?
we go.
An incredibly polarized Congress, but there are huge differences as well. And the biggest
wasn't there a whole bunch of Democrats who supported the impeachment of Bill Clinton in the House, James?
Yes, there was. Bipartisan, as a matter of fact, and just to put a finer point on what bringing up Nixon, because some people in the chat had a question about it. No, Nixon was not impeached; he wasn't. But I will say that they had 400 Congress people vote, so it was bipartisan by a lot voted in Congress that they were gonna impeach him. So that's why he resigned before they could. But he wasn't impeached. So this is what the Democrats hang their hats on, because basically every president that's ever been impeached, the other two were Democrats. So,
well, I tell you what, I have a different theory. I agree with you, but I also have something to add to that. I think the removal of Richard Nixon is a feather in the media's cap, because that was their win. They got rid of Richard Nixon.
That's correct.
People don't remember how Richard Nixon was elected. He won, did he win 48 states in that election before the impeachment? Like before the impeachment proceeding? It took the mainstream press, which Brian Stelter is now putting up on a pedestal back in the 1960s. Remember that term he used, one-to-many. Traditional one-to-many media. It took them 18 months to take literally one of the most popular elected presidents of all time to resign in disgrace.
That's right. The media completely did it.
Didn't even get to an impeachment. The media impeached him.
The media did impeach him. And another correction, because in the chat they said, well, it wasn't Nixon accused of 8 felonies. That may be true, but that was political. Remember, Nixon was never, ever found guilty in a court of law. But Bill Clinton was. That's right. Yep. Bill Clinton was found for perjury in contempt of court in federal district court. So when you start making comparisons, start understanding what the details are. Again, accusations are exactly what Boogie's talking about right now. The media is why Nixon got crucified over this. The media is why he was impeached, because the media put the pressure into the politics, and the politicians had to respond in a political way to their constituents. If the media hadn't done what it did and gone and sensationalized this, that would have never happened. The entire story would be different. The entire history of our country would be different if it wasn't for the media. The media is why Nixon got as bad as it was. We're not saying that it was, the right thing for him to do to send people over to, the Watergate Hotel and break into the Democrat offices. We're not saying that's correct, but does it even possibly rise to the level of impeachment? I mean, you gotta really start thinking about that, all right? And there was no like guilty verdict in a court of law, so you can't hang felonies around his neck either. But you can on Bill Clinton.
Yep. Yeah, this is the other thing that happens. In 1998, they framed the whole Bill Clinton impeachment. Now, if you look back in the history books, if you take, commentators from the time, so say Christopher Hitchens, for example, who was a Democrat party, he was a Democrat, right? He was a socialist most of his life, but a big opponent of Bill Clinton, hated Bill Clinton. Now, if you go back and you don't get to see clips from guys like him who talk about, the corruption of Bill Clinton and stuff, you'll think that he was impeached for getting a blowjob. But that's not what the reality was. The reality was he was impeached for lying about it in court. And lying in court when you're under oath is a crime. Like, that's what he was impeached for. It wasn't nobody cared if he was having sex with somebody in his office. It's the fact that he went out and lied about it. That's what he was impeached for.
And again, we highlight the media's importance in the Bill Clinton impeachment. First of all, I want to be clear about this because I think it's an important distinction. He lied to a grand jury. Now, the grand jury is we the people. So essentially, Bill Clinton lied to us, the people. Okay? Remember, grand juries are the only way the federal courts can indict anyone. Okay? He lied to a grand jury is where this started. But I digress. The media is every bit as responsible for Bill Clinton getting away with it and getting reelected as they are over getting rid of Nixon. The media successfully ran a campaign promoting, he just got a blowjob. He just got a blowjob. 8 felonies. This guy was literally charged and convicted in a court of law. Okay? And the media still successfully made this all about a blowjob. Just think about that. So you're watching 2 major parallel stories in the United States that if it wasn't for the media mucking about, history would be a lot different.
I can add another one. We've spoken about it before. The Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was lost by the media in the United States. People talk about the Tet Offensive. The Tet Festival in Vietnam is like a religious festival, and basically there was agreement on all sides to stop fighting during the Tet Festival, which I forget how long. Is it 10 days or something like that?
I don't know.
Yeah, right. So what happened was the Viet Cong launched a whole bunch of attacks on American, embassies and installations and stuff. But the story of the Tet Offensive that was portrayed by the media was we're getting butchered over there. The Tet Offensive was an overwhelming defeat for the VC. The Viet Cong were eviscerated, and I think the losses on the American side you can probably count on one hand. That's how bad it was for the Viet Cong. But the Viet Cong were very smart. They had journalists, Western journalists, embedded with them, and they had certain images and certain newsreels sent back to the United States because they knew they didn't have to win the war. They just had to win the war of public perception in the United States, and the people would take care of it themselves. This sparked the whole protest movement against the Vietnam War in the United States. It put pressure on the politicians trying to save their jobs, which is what eventually led to the United States pulling out of Vietnam. It all started from that media offensive from the Tet Offensive.
Most of you aren't old enough, and I'm barely old enough to remember, but during the times of this, the media were rolling on live television the names of all of the dead Americans on live television. Now, when, before or after have we ever done that? You see, the media lost the Vietnam War. The media got Nixon impeached. The media saved Bill Clinton. Just the media is the common thread here. We've all said the media is the enemy of the people, and history proves that to be true. It's history. The major stories. We're not talking about the little shit. We're talking about major. They lost us the Vietnam War because we fucking won the Tet Offensive. They didn't. We won in Vietnam. They were going to fucking surrender to us when we fucking pulled out. But we won that war, and the media lost it for us. And when our boys came home, it was because of the media coverage that these leftist, liberal lunatics like Hillary Clinton and Nancy Pelosi were at the airport spitting on our boys, shitting on our soldiers. And when they got into power, the Vietnam veterans, more than any other veteran group ever in the history of this country, were treated like absolute dregs of society, shit on at every turn, their medicals taken away, their fucking care and comfort taken away, their pensions fucking reduced. These people
weren't they kicked out of the VFA and everything? Kicked out of the VFA and stuff?
Yep. They did so much bad shit to the Vietnam veterans, and it's all because of the media. It literally, understand how bad the media has fucked our country for a very, very long time.
But this is exactly, and this is why we're pointing this out, and this is why we're going to such great lengths. Brian Stelter and the rest of the corporate press is lamenting the fact that it's different. They're lamenting the fact that that dynamic, that paradigm has shifted permanently. And that's, you can bring in, if you want to look, like if you want to look at YouTube now, look at what the trending page on YouTube used to be 5 or 10 years ago. It would be monkey pissing in his own mouth, baby doing cute things, cat videos and stuff. You look at the trending page on YouTube now, ABC, CNN, MSNBC, ESPN, they are trying to take over the internet space because of what? Their belief in the best way to deliver news in a fashion that makes sense to them, one to many. That's It's not the power of one. James talks about the power of one, convincing one person. Their power of one comes from the dark side. That means the power of one to talk to a whole bunch of people without the ability for them to counter it. That's what they believe in.
The difference is the internet. What was a novelty
The difference
then
is the internet.
is now an extension of our brains and bodies. We can all stream the hearings on our phones. We can all read the primary source materials for ourselves. Or we can just read what our friends post about it on Facebook and choose not to think for ourselves at all.
Do you see the fucking delicious irony in this? Do you see the irony in this, James? He's the conversations that you're having on social media, sharing your sources, the debates that you're having, that's the fake world. That's the unreal world. Here in the real world, I talk, you shut up and listen. That's what he's saying to you. That's what he's saying to the audience.
I mean, honestly, how many people are going to read this new congressional report? This is about the constitutional grounds for presidential impeachment. The House Democrats put it out over the weekend. It's a literal refresh from the Nixon years. The House Democrats purposely making it look similar.
Oh, snap! Bri! You just gave the game away! And your people that watch you are too stupid to see it. See, this is what we talk about. The people watching CNN are going, yeah, see, that's a good idea. That was really smart of them. That'll help. Fuck, what? What?
They want him to resign. They want Donald Trump to resign. They don't want to go to the Senate. They want him to stand down. They want Donald Trump and his supporters to think that it is absolutely hopeless, that there is no possible chance that he can survive it, so he may as well step down now. I wouldn't be surprised. This is a theory. I'm just going to float this. It might not happen. Let's spitball this, though. I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing puff pieces from, I swear to God, CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, New York Times, all of the regular players here. I would not be surprised. Start looking for stories about Mike Pence. Like, what would happen if Mike Pence took over? You know, Mike Pence wouldn't be that bad. Mike Pence has a great record in Washington, although we disagree on things that he would never conduct himself in an unscrupulous way like Donald Trump. Watch for that angle to start creeping in.
I agree.
To try and get you adjusted to the idea that Donald Trump should resign because it's the best thing for you. They have to sell it to you, not to them.
I agree 100%, but I want to put out a word of caution because I already see this matrix happening, and it's already out there. Do not glom on to the anti-Pence rhetoric bullshit, because that in itself they will use down the road to then spin that back, okay? Just keep this in mind. They're fucking you all the time. We know there has never been a vice president more vocally supportive of his president than Mike Pence. He's gone out of his way to support Trump, even when it was politically negative for Mike Pence. He stood up against the establishment as well. He stood up against fucking Paul Ryan. Mike Pence has done better coming from where he's come from at defending Donald Trump than anybody else. He's never stepped a toe out of line, even when it was easy for him to do so. Even when it was easy for him to get away with it, even from MAGA, he still hardlined it and stood behind the president of the United States. And Donald Trump himself has come out several times and said, Mike Pence is our man. Mike Pence is my vice president. Mike Pence is on our team. So don't get sucked up, because I already see the matrix out there and I see the play. I think Boogie's exactly right. You're going to get puff pieces, and it's going to cause more division in MAGA. Don't let it happen. Even if others are engaging in it, ignore it. Walk away from it, because we can't let this be the thing that they use to, remember, wedge politics. Boogie talks about this more than anybody else I know of on the internet. You have to understand what wedge politics are all about. They don't care what the subject is. They're constantly trying to divide you from each other. They're constantly trying to wedge off tiny pieces even of the base. If they can make a 5% difference, they're winning in some of these elections. Remember how close swing states are. It doesn't have to be a big push. It just has to wedge the base, and that's what they're going to do.
Correct. I see a comment in the chat from Nick. All this CNN, MSM stuff is only targeted at their TDS base. No one else is listening or trusts them. True and not true at the same time. What it does is it arms their TDS base with talking points, with narratives, with ideas, which then they go out and spread and manifest. This then creates a conversation, right? And then politicians then have to respond to the conversation, whether they like it or not. They have to react to it. Even if it's only targeted at a small audience, that small audience becomes many because it gets diluted and reframed and picked apart, and then it becomes a new conversation. Then it starts things on Twitter. Then it goes out of Twitter. Then it starts getting written about in op-ed pieces in the New York Times and the Washington Post. Next thing you know, you've got politicians who are getting door-stopped by journalists saying, how do you respond to the claims of X and Y in the Washington Post article this week? See, and then that politician comes out with a quote, then that quote gets written about, and then that spins off a whole news cycle, right? So that's how they do it, right? I understand that it's true that nobody's paying attention in the initial phase, but it's amazing how often the things that nobody's paying attention to, like stuff we talk about on this show, like articles in Slate and Salon, everybody ends up talking about a month later. Yep. Because that's where it starts. That's how these things start.
It's nice. Just like these well thought out editorials from the LA Times and the Boston Globe this weekend calling for the impeachment of Trump. These pieces do
well thought out editorials
have value, but
these pieces have value, James. You've been told, one to many.
Political persuasion is happening elsewhere right now. It is happening in little bits and pieces, in tweets and in headlines, in rumors and ridiculous memes, and in all-out lies.
Are you there or did I lose you? I might have lost Boogie there. I think I lost Boogie. Wait for a second. He might come back here. I think you guys can still hear me. I'm looking at all my signals and whistles here, but I have lost Boogie. Boogie is gone into the matrix. He is going to be back at some point, I think. If not, we'll bring him back in. Just hang on for a second, and we'll see if it fixes itself. If not, I'll hang up and call him back. But he has definitely gone into the matrix. I think it was Brian. I think CNN said, "Oh my God, this guy is killing us. We're gonna have to dump Boogie, cut Australia off, cut him off." There we go. Something happened.
Am I back?
All right. You're back. You're back, baby.
All right, baby.
All right. Jeez,
So where did we get up to?
No idea. You should probably just take it back to the. Some of them wanted to re-see the whole Nixon comment anyway, so you probably could go right back to where he says that. Yeah, right about there. That's good.
Refresh from the Nixon years, materials for ourselves, or we can just read what our friends post about it on Facebook and choose not to think for ourselves at all. I mean,
All right, we went glitchy again. Something's bad going on over there. We went glitchy again. If you can hear me, this is turning into a shit show. What? We wouldn't have it any other way here on Trust and Verify. You know that. Come on. We have more problems than ever. This is definitely Australia-based, though. Whatever this problem is definitely coming from Boogie's end. He comes back, so let's try to call him back here. We'll see if we can get him right back.
What is going on here?
I don't know, but something's going on between the connection between you and I here.
Okay.
Everything from me is still going out. The people can still hear me every time, but it's you. So there's something in that connection. So let's try to pick it up right there. Just push play. And
all right, we'll get to the point here.
happening in little bits and pieces, in tweets and in headlines, in rumors and ridiculous memes, and in all-out lies. Take Rudy Giuliani, for example. He's been off on an Eastern European adventure, digging up dirt about the Bidens, working on a TV show, stoking the right to Ukraine conspiracy theory.
Yeah, and he's stoking conspiracy theories, James. See how the framing happens? Now, I'm not a big rap on Giuliani as it is. I think he's actually, it's probably time to put him out to pasture, but that's just my personal opinion. But to say he's out there digging up dirt on the Bidens and stoking conspiracy theories, nothing to qualify that whatsoever. Nothing to qualify that whatsoever. It's just framing, right?
Yep. And just to highlight that little point right there is that, remember, Rudy's deposing people on national television. It was the left's guy, Luchenko, who said that he had the documentation, showed it on OAN. He has the documentation that Jovanovic literally stood in the way of evidence getting to the United States Justice Department because in Luchenko's opinion, now remember, this is a lefty guy. This is a guy on the Soros team. In Luchenko's opinion, Biden did not break Ukrainian law, but he did break U.S. law. And he said that on the record, deposed, national television, Rudy Giuliani sitting at the table. So for Bri to say he's stoking conspiracy theories, Bri is trying to ignore actual news from their own sources.
Brilliant. And didn't the prosecutor who just recently took over recently get fired due to corruption and is now facing corruption charges himself?
Yep.
I guess the Ukrainian judicial system is now stoking conspiracy theories for the delight of CNN.
Yep.
Theories and getting lots of media attention. But here is an old-fashioned idea.
Old-fashioned.
How about those of us in the reality-based press?
The reality-based press. Hey? You like that? Isn't that cute? Isn't that cute from Bri? Those of us here in the reality-based press. Now you watch how many conversations you'll have with, friends who are of this political persuasion in the next week or so. If they watch Brian Stelter, they'll start referring to the reality-based press now. This is the way it works.
Evaluate what he's doing, see if his claims make any sense, and then decide whether he merits media attention. Trump and his allies.
Let's decide whether he merits media attention or not. One to many. We'll decide for you. Don't look up the WikiLeaks, guys. You're not allowed. Anything you want to know about WikiLeaks, you come to us.
That's the same network that said that. That's right. That's the exact same network that said that bullshit. He literally just told you, we'll decide what you get to see. We'll decide what news you get to hear about. We'll make the decisions for you. Pay no attention to the reality behind you. You are under our control. What the? This guy is like George Orwell's like prototypical person that he wrote about right here. This guy is the perfect mind control bot.
Allies rely on the media to repeat their misinformation and conspiracy theories, even though they've been debunked over and over and over again. The lies and smears and diversions are...
Because I love this trend that they have. Just because they put debunked in a headline, they think it's debunked. You know?
are not automatically newsworthy. Our job...
Oh, here we go again. Boogie's... Sorry. Dude, I don't know what's going on, but there is some bad interference here between myself and Australia. I don't know what the hell is going on, but just the fact that you guys can keep hearing, but he keeps glitching out. Something's going on.
God, this is getting tedious.
Yeah, Skype hates us.
Skype hates us. Well, I'll very quickly wrap it up. He said very quickly here, I'll play one little clip.
But lies and smears and diversions are not automatically newsworthy. Our...
And there it goes again. What the bloody hell is going on here? Man, Skype.
All right.
Skype is killing us.
Skype is killing us. I'll leave the clips there. So I'll just say what Brian was talking about in that last little clip there, because maybe it's a bandwidth issue. I'm not sure. He said, it's our job in the reality-based press, James, to report what is true, and for things that aren't true or opinion, tell them who's pushing it. Last week on his show, he literally had a guy who sat there who'd written a book saying that everybody who follows Donald Trump is part of a psychological cult who is experiencing a disorder where they have not the ability to question anything in the world at all. They are just rabid cult members. And this was like, oh, yes, well, you're the expert, blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, they'll speak with forked tongues and say, this is reality here. This is the reality-based press, and we only tell you what's true. When quite obviously, quite often, and quite ridiculously, so much of what they say is so ridiculously untrue that it's amazing that you still have to bring it up to people. Yep. But there it is. I wish I could play more of the clip, maybe another time, but that's your hammering.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something's going on with bandwidth there between him and I. I apologize. I don't know what's going on. We can only tell you that we do our best every fucking week to bring you these shows. And Skype just hates us right now. It just, you can tell it's bandwidth because now he's fine. No, we're not playing any videos, and now Boogie's there. So we will see you next week right here, same bat time, same bat channel on the same networks. Get over to dlive.tv/tab show. Get over to dlive.tv/Boogie Bumper. Get over to dlive.tv/Real Person Politics, because we are going to be doing a lot more over there. The people are loving it. The people that are there are having a great time. They can share GIFs, they can share pictures, they can cut clips out of our show that they liked, and then we can use them as highlights, and then we can post them directly to Twitter, and you can do whatever you want over there. You can have so much fun, and you can share produce and lemons and bok choy to your heart's content. So it's a lot of fun over there on DLive. We will see you next week, and Boogie will be back tomorrow. I will be back tomorrow. The IG report will be back tomorrow, and we will see you tomorrow. Aloha. Everybody have a great night.
I got it from my daddy. 낮에는 잠만 자 밤이 오면 상남자 널 보자마자 나 너무 좋았어 네가 딱 보면 hand me down 신나면 너
Where'd you get that body from? Where'd you get that body from? Where'd you get that body from?
I got it from my daddy. I got it from my daddy. I got it.
Hey, where'd you get that body from?
I got it from my daddy. I got it from my daddy. I got it.
Hey, where'd you get that body from?
I got it from my dad. Daddy. I got it from my dad. Listen, my papa was a Superman. Hey, 그대로 바라왔어, come on man. Hey, 신사 이길 거부하는 신사. 이 구역에 미친놈은 바로 나. Hey, I got it from my dad. Daddy, I got it from my dad.
Look, it's hard being a Democrat. You gotta make tough decisions like, do I vote for a socialist who'll destroy the economy, or do I vote for a socialist who's totally insane and will destroy the economy? Well, for the rest of us, here's an easy one. Donald Trump. It's a fact. In Trump's America, more people are getting a paycheck than ever before. 6 million new jobs in 3 years. That's one new job every 12 seconds, 250 an hour, and $3 billion in value every day. No wonder the guy's filling stadiums. Trump ain't raising the bar, he is the bar. It's payday. Keep America great. Stand with Trump in 2020.
Hey everybody, we clearly forgot to open the chest on D Live, so apologies. We're not prepared to get it done, so we will do it next week. So make sure you're here next week, and it'll be a double chest opening. So there you go. Sorry about that.